Legal Tech for Africa.
Good evening and welcome to episode 12 of Wivo Legal Tech for Africa with me, Mohammed Wuriba. Today, we are diving into one of the most important shifts in Africa's digital landscape, Nigeria. The move beyond the NDPR, which is the National Data Protection Regulation, into a brand new era of data protection under the Nigeria Data Protection Act. For years, the NDPR laid the groundwork, but it also left plenty of unanswered questions. Now, with the NDPA, the Nigerian Data Protection Act, Nigeria isn't just catching up, it's positioning itself as a leader in Africa's privacy and digital rights journey. But here's the big question. What does this new law actually mean for individuals, businesses, and the future of innovation in Nigeria? To help us unpack this, we are joined by a brilliant guest, Chinonso Emeka, or as her full name reads, Chinonso Emeka, Senior Advocate Associate at Privalex Advisory, who has been following this evolution closely and will break down the opportunities, the challenges, and what lies ahead in this new era of data protection in Nigeria. Chinonso, welcome. How far now?
Hey, Mohammed. Good day.
Welcome to Wivo Legal Tech for Africa. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Chinonso is a senior associate at Privalex Advisory, where she blends the law and technology. She advises on regulatory compliance, digital transformation, and strategic growth, while advocating for social impact and the empowerment of girls through our NGO work. So, Chinonso, tell us what you guys do at Privalex Advisory.
Okay, thank you so much, Mohammed. I'm so happy to be here at Legal Tech for Africa. So at Privalex Advisory, we're actually an advisory firm. We're into data protection and cybersecurity, mostly compliance, legal compliance. And we also carry out trainings. We have our Privalex Academy where we carry out trainings for data protection officers, people that want to know more, and organizations, businesses. So we don't just carry out individual trainings. If you are a data controller or a data processor and you want trainings for your team, you and your team members, Privalex is your show button for it. And then we also do a lot of compliance works. We help do your auditing, help you guide in your auditing work, data mapping, and a whole lot more. So we do a lot in Privalex. You can actually follow us on our social media handles. We're very active on LinkedIn, we're very active on Twitter, and we post a lot of information, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa and the UK and beyond.
Because that would have been my next question. Where are you guys? Are you just in Nigeria, or are you elsewhere? But thankfully, you guys are also in the UK and other places. So, Chinonso, let's start the ball rolling proper. Let's just set the stage. Why was Nigeria's transition from the NDPR to the NDPA such a significant milestone in the country's digital landscape?
Okay, so thank you so much, Mohammed, for that question. So I'll start by saying that the NDPR, which is the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, was first a regulation that was formulated by NIDA. NIDA is the National Information Technology Agency here in Nigeria. Now, the work of NIDA is to regulate, promote, provide policies, and guide the information technology in Nigeria. So as part of their work, because they are also an agency that is regulated by a law, which is Nigerian Information Technology Data Development Law. And because of that law authorizes them to create policies. And one of the policies they created was the NDPR. Now, the NDPR was just a regulation as at then. It was not yet a law. But when the digital landscape of Nigeria became more widened, like we had a lot of data protection issues that needed immediate attention, we had to now migrate from just having a regulation to having a law on data protection. That's what brought about the Nigerian Data Protection Act of 2023 that provides for data subject rights, it gives a whole lot about who data subjects. And then apart from that, it came around with the GAID, that's the General Application Implementation Directives, that just came into force last month, on the 19th of last month, which is like the implementation framework for the NDPA. So if you want to know how the law is going to be implemented, the GAID is now like a guide. Okay, this is how we are going to implement the sections of this law. So it was born out of the fact that Nigeria became our digital economy became very, very wide, and we needed a law that will be able to spell out what the rights of data subjects are, and also what are the responsibilities that are given to data controllers and processors that process this data. And then we also needed an agency, now we call it our commission, which is the NDPC, the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, to be able to guide and see how this law is going to be implemented in its entirety. So that was a heavy milestone for us because it spoke a lot to our digital economy here in Nigeria.
Perfect. I mean, I want to take you back to the NDPR. I'm looking at the NDPR. What problem was it really designed to solve at the time? I mean, from 2019 when it was inaugurated to 2023 when we witnessed its demise.
Okay, so when the NDPR was enacted, it was actually there to provide data controllers and data processors with their responsibilities on how to manage personal data. It was there to protect the personal data of individuals in Nigeria, as data subjects here in Nigeria. That was like the major problem it came to solve, as at the time it was promulgated by NDPA.
All right. So for the benefit of our viewers, I mean, you've mentioned the data controllers and data processors. For the benefit of our viewers, data controllers is actually referring to companies that control, of course, that accumulate and takes our data, control them and store them and processes them as well. And the data processor in this context refers to companies that are either employed by the controllers to process these data. So now, this is just for the benefit of the viewers. I mean, what do you think were its greatest achievement, and where did it fall short for us to have the NDPA?
Okay, so the NDPR was there, like I said initially, to spell out the responsibilities of data controllers and processors, and then protect the data, protect the data of data subjects. But it had its limitation because it was just a regulation. It was not a law. It was a guide for people that use this data. Now, in as much as it helped to give some groundbreaking for the NDPA, which is now the law, but it had its limitation in terms of the fact that you do not have a lot of noise about enforcement. It was more like a guide for protection. That's one thing that the NDPR came and it was able to, cover that aspect. But if you want to now put it side by side with the NDPA give a holistic solution per se, if I may use that word, for want of words. Yes, for want of words, I'll say the NDPA gives a holistic solution. So it spells out a lot of things. Now we know that we have data subjects. We know that data subjects have rights, which are spelled out in the NDPA. We have principles of data protection. They are spelled out in the NDPA.
So what are these rights that the NDPA has introduced? Can you take us through some of them and the data principles as well?
Okay, so some of the rights that the NDPA provides, for example, as a data subject, you have a right to request for your data. If a data controller or a data processor takes your data, you have a right to request. Then you have a right to withdraw your consent. If you're consented, you have a right to either give or withdraw your consent. Then you have a right to ratification, because when you give a data to a data controller or a data processor as a data subject, you have a right to request that data should be ratified should in case there is any, how will I put it, there are any mistakes in your data that is being stored by data controller, as it's that you can walk up to the data and tell them, I want my data to be rectified. Then you also have a right to request that your data is forgotten, that's they delete it entirely from their system. So you can walk up to a data controller and say, please, I don't want you to store my data anymore. I have a right for my data to be forgotten. I have a right for my data to be rectified. I have a right to withdraw my consent. I also have a right to request for my data. I have a right to ask you to request for my data and say, please, I want my data. Or I was this information, you have it with you. I want it. So these are some of the rights, not all, but some of them that the NDPA introduced. Then for the principles, we have fairness, we have lawfulness.
Yeah.
And we have the transparency. We have the principle of fairness, lawfulness, and transparency. We have the principle of accountability. The NDPA principle of accountability in the data processor or controller, that you are accountable for the data that you process. You are accountable for the data that you control. Then we have the principle of duty of care. You owe the data subject a duty of care to inform them. You have to make sure that they are well informed that this is what your data is going to be used for, and you don't go beyond that, whatever has been stated and they have consented to. So these are some of the few principles, there's still more, that the NDPA has introduced for data subjects.
I just out of inquisitiveness, I assume it will also have provisions for data minimization, storage limitation, and of course purpose limitation, which
we do.
I mean, so it's kind of a reflection of the GDPR. But anyway, we'll come to there to see how reflective it is with the GDPR or other regulations across the globe. But anyway, I want us now to talk about the transition. So how did we get from a regulation to a full act? What drove that legislative leap?
Okay, I think one thing I would say is every law has its backing when there is a political will that encourages it. So when we had the new government in Nigeria, that's in 2023, when we had the president that came into power, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think he was very passionate about this particular law coming into force, because we had a whole lot of people digging out people's information here and there, asking for their information.
Just a quick one. Was there anyone in this government that's his data was dog? I'm not trying to get you into trouble. I mean, if you are willing to give us a background about what drove the leap.
I would just say that I think the major reason was to be able to govern the kind of information that goes online. Because, okay, let me give an instance. I'll be very anonymous as possible. People who just
you can be pseudonymized.
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
So people who just wake up one morning and you see your information, maybe your date of birth or your school history flying all over the internet. And you'll be like, wow, how did they get their hands on this sensitive information? And then you find out that people will just use them, and then they would, formulate fake news about you and put them online. And you don't even know how they got access to that information. So what this law, with this whole lot of issues going on in the internet, there were a lot of information. People had their sensitive privacy informations going on the internet daily, and they could not be able to track how those people or how those bloggers got their hands in those information. So this law has come to cushion that, even if it is still going on, but it's not, people are now getting more aware about the fact that, oh, I can't just take a chat I had with somebody and just put it out there.
Yeah.
For the whole world to see. I have to actually make sure that the other person is on notice and say, oh, I actually want to use this for this. So is that the issue of marketing? Because people are heavy on that aspect. You don't use my data to market. You don't use my data to monitor my behavior, or my pattern, or the way I talk, or the way I spend. So people are very now somehow getting that consciousness that, oh, my data is important and I can't just be letting it out there. So if you get your hands on somebody's data that is not yours, or the person cannot be able to trace how you got it, then you are in for it, because it's now a crime. It's a crime now in Nigeria.
I see. So I mean, the significance of this transition was, I mean, cannot be overemphasized. And of course, you said most importantly, it has a political will that backs this transition to having a more robust act from the data protection regulation. So now, with all this, what's the significance of having the Nigerian Data Protection Commission in particular, and how does it change the enforcement game?
Okay, so I think first of all, I'll say we just trace it back to NITA. The NDPC was more of like a department, but like that of NDPA when they were just using NDPR. And then they migrated when the law came into force, that's the NDPA, and then became a commission. Now the commission is like an interface between the citizens, the data subjects, and the government, that's the controllers. So now, right now, we have a body, or let's say an agency, where you can go to. You can go on their website to check people that are licensed data controllers and processors. You can go there to check that are licensed data protection officers, because then when the NDPR was there, we didn't have anything like DPOs. But right now, with the commission coming into force, we have licensed DPOs. And then you have a commission where you can go and ask questions. You can go and lay complaints, because the law gives them the right to investigate. So for example, now I'm a data subject and I feel that my rights, any of my data subject rights have been breached, or my any infringement on my rights as a data subject in terms of my privacy. I have a place where I can now go to complain and say, please, my right has been breached and I need to be compensated, or I need you to carry out an investigation on it. So that's what the work of the NDPC does. They are now helping out in the enforcement. They help in creating awareness, and also they help in creating another avenue of creating job, because now we have data processors and controllers, and we also have DPOs.
DPOs as in data protection officers. Yeah.
Yes, data protection officers. So this are like another opportunity for creation of jobs for Nigerians. So now I can actually become a licensed DPO, and I can be able to have a job, because it's not compulsory that everyone that controls or processes data must have a DPO in their system.
So if I want to become a data protection officer in Nigeria, what's the requirement should I fulfill?
Okay, so the NDPC the National Data Protection Commission has a partnership with the Information Management System, Security System, is a body that they partner with to take care of exams. And they help in, for example, if you want to apply to become a licensed DPO here in Nigeria, you apply to them first. You take an entry exam. If you pass the exam, they route you back to NDPC for you to be able to obtain your license. So they are like the body that helps to do the screening and verification to be sure that you meet the requirements. But outside that, if you want to know the requirements that you need to meet under the General Application Implementation Directives, Schedule 3 has a breakdown of the assessments that you need for you to become a data protection officer here in Nigeria. So if you're able to meet up with the assessments, you can then take the exam and then you become licensed.
So before taking the exam, can anyone from any profession and any discipline apply for that?
Okay, so I have people have asked these questions a whole lot. Some people feel that it's just for lawyers. Some people feel it's just for cybersecurity experts. But I think if you have a qualification but the law gives you an advantage. Having a background in cybersecurity also gives you an advantage. And if you're a compliance person, you're into securities, it also gives you an advantage. So for me, I would say there's no how will I put it? There's no straight jacket rule like saying that, oh, you must be this and that. But when you want to apply, you must make sure that you have a knowledge background in securities and compliance. That's what I would say. If I should advise somebody that wants to apply to become a licensed DPO here in Nigeria, I would say have a background in security and compliance. It gives you an edge when applying to become a licensed DPO here in Nigeria.
Okay. All right. It's like the IAPP in Europe. It
Yeah.
makes yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I hope my country is listening. I hope my viewers listening. I hope you guys are listening. See, this is one way to create job for people like us. We're kind of jobless. I mean, with the Data Protection Act, of course, there will be something for us to do. So now, from your perspective, Chinonso, what are the most striking distinctions or differences between the NDPR and the NDPA?
Okay. First of all, I'll say that the NDPR laid the groundwork. But like I said earlier, it had its limitation because it was more of a regulation. It had areas where it could not carry out a lot of enforcement, even if it was serving just like a guide. Okay, you want to process data, this and this and this and this must be put in place for you to be able to process data of data subjects. But there were no enforcement, like out-blown enforcement. Okay, you don't have to, so we have to find you, we have to investigate. So when the NDPA came in, it's now provided for a commission, which is the NDPC. So what the NDPC did was that it now became, like I said, the interface, like the middle person between the data subjects, data controllers, and processors. Not just that, it brought about the issue of enforcement. It created an avenue for data subjects to lay complaints. You now know that when your right is breached, you know who to run to. You know who to first lay your complaint. And they have a right for investigation. So the NDPC now, with the law, the NDPA has the right to go into any organization and carry out investigations to be sure that whatever you are doing is in alignment with the acts. And then they carry out awareness. A whole lot of awareness have been going on. Like my company is part of one of the awareness programs that is going on with the NDPC, which is called Impact. So where we are trying to educate Nigerians, data subjects, of their rights. Because one thing we have gotten to understand is when they know their rights, they are able to know what they should be asking for. Okay, let me give an example. For example, we found out that many people don't read privacy notices.
Yeah.
They don't even know what it means.
You
understand?
We just click and move on. I mean, I don't have time to read.
Yes, they don't know what it means. So these are the areas where the NDPC is trying to cover the field, trying to make sure that people are okay, fine, I open my app, I should be able to know what is a privacy notice, and then not just know what is a privacy notice, but what I should see.
Quickly, let me intrude in your thought. Do you guys have an opt-in system or an opt-out system?
Okay, we have an opt-out system.
Okay. So you're like
yes.
the US. Okay,
You need to take our consent first before you use our data.
I see.
You don't just assume. Yes, you don't. But even though many people are still saying, oh, the opt-in is still okay. You understand? But I feel that for us, for example, now they say, oh, there's something like an implied. We have what we call an implied consent in the NDPA. Now that's subject to when you go for public events. People say, oh, there's this implied consent. Even if we as lawyers in the data privacy space, we are advocating for the fact that, see, if you want our consent to be implied by virtue of attending public events, then your privacy notice should carry out everything that is entailed in the NDPA. Don't just give us a shot and run. Don't just summarize everything. No, tell us who is going to process our data. Tell us how long you retain that data. Tell us what that data is going to be used for. Everything should be well detailed, and people are not advocates. And I saw a post on one of the privacy champions in Kenya, and she said something. She said, it's even better you give us the notice before we come for the events.
Yeah.
Don't come and paste it. Well, don't come and paste it as a banner on the day of the event. Let us know before we come that this is what we are coming to. Like, if you are going to attend this event, these are the things that you are consenting to.
It should come with the invitation.
Yes, it should come with the invitation. I should be able to appreciate the privacy notice before I come for the event.
I see.
So these are the things that we do. Yes. So we tell you, even if you want to take a privacy notice, tell us everything that you want to do with our data. Then it's not left for us to now tell you, okay, fine. But we also have a couch in Nigeria, in a Nigerian law, in our principles, that you owe your data subject a duty of care. So even when consent is being given, if it is found out that the consent was taken in duress or taken, how do I put it? The person did not
undue
appreciate,
influence.
Yes, unduly. The person did not appreciate all that was stated. The person just assumed or did some like summarization. And then the person now find out that, okay, for example, you never told me that you're going to share my data with a third party. And then I found out that a third party is now handling my data. So that information alone, the NDPC will take it up from there with you, because you didn't give the full detail of what that data is supposed to be used for. So the person gave his or her consent without fully understanding why you wanted that data. So there's this duty of care is very, very important. They make emphasis on it a lot.
I mean that's make a whole lot of sense. I don't see why we shouldn't be there. We shouldn't get what that particular provisions in the Data Protection Act of Nigeria. So Chinonso, I want us to look at specifically the new things that the NDPA has introduced. Of course, you've mentioned clearer rights for data subjects, and you've attempted to mention some of these rights of the data subject. Which of these do you see as the most impactful?
Okay, I think one that is making a lot of waves now is the issue of consent. Consent, the idea of giving consent for your data to be used or processed. So a whole lot of, like for example, just I think that should be last month or before the GAD came into force on the 19th of September, the NDPC flagged some companies, mostly in the fintech space, flagged them off for violating some data, to having data, violating some data rights and privacy issues. So the issue of you taking sensitive informations from data subjects and then using them for marketing purposes or using them illegally, they sell them out and the rest. So the question is, when you took those data from your clients or from your so-called customers, what were the privacy policies or privacy notices that you put out in place out there, telling them this is what your data is going to be used for? So did they actually consent for you to be able to process or control that data? So I think one of the significance they are making a lot of heavy weather on is the issue of consent. So you can't just take people's data. They have to give them proper notification. And then the idea of retaining the data for so long, you have to have a retained policy. This is the period of time when we are going to be keeping this data. And after this period of time, we'll have them it's going to be forgotten. So, and then if you must even keep them for that period of time, why? You should give a well-detailed reason behind keeping such data for a long time. So all this, I think the issue of consent and retention is one thing that is very, very vocal here in Nigeria.
I assume that this new law makes provision for the RTBPF rights, the right to be forgotten, and you've mentioned data minimization, and I'm fresh from school, so the fact of the Meta and Max Krem is fresh in my mind. So I'm just thinking, if that's the case in Nigeria, and given the context of our society where, most of our people pride communal attributes or communal characteristics over individual rights and individualism, how would you, in your estimation, how would you resonate this with this new right to be forgotten? Africans, or as African, do we actually have that opportunity for us to be forgotten?
Okay, I say thank God you said the African context, because it tells a lot. We like togetherness, we like coming together, we like communal fellowship and the rest, and it's very good, it's nice. It's one unique thing that we have that we sometimes we don't see in the West. So the right to forgotten, I think, is something that can be actually achieved, because in the NDPA we have a section, trying to remember the particular section, where they said that archives, historic archives, like keeping historical archives, are not subject to this idea of right to be forgotten. So if, for example, it's for the sake of history, or for the sake of being able to trace a particular maybe legacy or stuff, then this issue of destroying it does not come to place, does not come out to play. But when it has to do with somebody's personal identity, like something that has to do with personal to me as an individual, I have a right to say, I want it to be forgotten, so far as it's not going to affect somebody else. But when it has to do with a collective, how do I put it? A collective data. When I mean a collective data, it affects me, it affects somebody else. If let me say, for example, now a school that has the data of students. Now, there's a rule about how those data should be kept and the reason behind them, or why they should be kept. Now, in that idea, you cannot say you want to exercise the right to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Because you need to have it. The school needs to have your data to be sure that you actually went to that school, you passed through that school, and you graduated from that school. Now, that does not have to do with you personally, because you need their verification, or like I put it, to authenticate your certificates that you got from them. Now, in that way, now you cannot go and say, oh, this university, delete all my archive in your institution. No, you can't do that, because you still have to make reference to them time and again. But when it has to do with, maybe, for example, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. It has to do with, maybe, for example, a chat I have with you, and then maybe we had a chat on something, and then just two of us. I have a right to tell you, oh, please delete the chat. You understand? Or don't share with a third party. That's where I can exercise my right to be forgotten. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. So, what new obligations? I want us to focus now on the data processors and controllers. What new obligations should businesses be paying close attention to?
Okay, so I think the NDPC has a categorization for businesses now. So we have extra high level, we have ultra high level, and we have the ordinary level.
So it's like the risk-based system.
Yes, more like in the risk and the amount of data you have. So I think for from 50,000 upwards, something like that. So it's in a segment of numbers. We have 10,000. If you process up to 10,000 data, you are ultra high. If you open up to 50,000, just like that. So it goes in numbers. The higher the number, the higher your section. So, and then we have companies that automatically they fall into this extra high. So it has to do with both numbers and risks. For fintech companies, they are in the ultra high level. And their registrations are different. So if you are processing data and you are in the ultra high level, you have a requirement for your registration. If you're in the extra high level, there's a requirement for your registration. If you're in the ordinary level, there's a requirement for your registration. And they are all stipulated in the guide. So the guide gives a breakdown of the amounts for your registration, and to know the particular sector where you're in, and the section where you should fall in. So these are the things that data controllers and processors must look out for. They must try to know whether are they under the extra high, are they ordinary high level, are they ordinary level. These are the three segments that the NDPC categorizes them. Then as a data controller and a data processor, you must carry out your DPIA, that's data privacy impact assessment. You must have your report of processing activities, your ROPA. Then you must carry out your audits, your annual audits with the NDPC. So a whole lot. The NDPC stipulates, if you go to their website, they have a whole lot of information on what you're supposed to do as a data controller and as a data processor. So when you know, I think one thing I would say is, first of all, know it, and then you register yourself as a data processor of major importance or higher importance. Those are things you need to also put in place. So if you want to get a better understanding of where you fall in, you need to appreciate the guide. That's the General Application Implementation Directive that took force in 19th of September 2025. So it tells you where you fall in. It tells you the necessary registrations that you need to undergo. And it tells you the necessary things that you need to file, either annually or, and then it also even gives you the proper breakdown of an assessment of who a data protection officer should be. And then it also provides for the data protection compliance organization, that's the DPCOs. These DPCOs are like licensed from the NDPC to help regulate data processors and controllers, carry out trainings and the rest. So all these things are stipulated in the NDPA and the JID. So when you appreciate both the guide and the law, when you appreciate them and read them, because you read them together, they are like, how I put it, you leverage on both of them at once, because they're like, okay, the NDPA is like the law, and the JID breaks down and gives you more, that's how the implementation should be. So when you are able to appreciate both, you know exactly what it is, what your responsibility is as a data controller and a data processor, and what are the necessary things that you need to file, and what are the necessary things that you need to put in place so that you can be on good standing with the NDPC.
I mean, this is a clear manifestation of what you guys are doing down there in Privalex. I mean, when it comes to the business of it, it's well thorough and well articulated. So we don't have time on our hands, so I would ask our viewers now if they have any question for our guest today. The comment section, of course, it's at your discretion. Use it as you want, but use it wisely. Ask questions, make observations, comment, whatever it is. Our guest is here to, of course, demystify the concept for us. Chinonso, let's keep the conversation going whilst we wait for the comments to come in. How much stronger are the Commission's enforcement powers compared to what we had before, in summary?
Okay, so I think the major thing is they are not heavy on defining. They are more heavy on getting people to understand how it works.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of give you notices. Okay, we have gone through your website, we have gone through your company's activities. We are not seeing this, we are not seeing that. You need to put this in place, you need to put that in place. So because they see that, okay, we are just new. The commission was just enacted in 2023, just almost 3 years now. So we have not been here for long. People are still getting to understand what we are doing. So they are not more heavy on define. They are more heavy on the issue of getting data processors and data controllers to understand what the law is all about and what implementations that they need to put in place in their organizations. So, but when they give you that notices and you don't comply, that's when the fine comes in. But they are not so heavy on fines.
I see.
And then for the data subjects, they are more of making you to understand that you have a right that can be enforced. And they want you to understand what these rights are and how you can be able to exercise them.
I see. So I just want to ask this a follow-up question. Nigerians, businesses obliged to have a privacy policy on their website in Nigeria?
Okay, like I always say, many people do it as a tick box system. So many people are just like, oh, okay, just compliance, okay, just tick the box and that's it. But NDPC is trying to, kill that culture. It's not a tick box. It's actually something that is supposed to be implemented. So, will I say they're embracing it awfully? No. But one thing I advocate for as a person is when the individual or the data subject involved understand what his or her data can be used to do or are being used for, and they start asking the right questions, these organizations will sit up.
Yeah.
So I think it's from that way, yes. So, but they are not really. People are still trying to get accustomed. Organizations are trying to, not that they are embracing it fully, but they are trying to.
Yeah. So now let's turn the page to opportunities and challenges. For businesses in Nigeria, does the NDPA represent a compliance headache or an opportunity to build trust, in your estimation?
Okay, so because people always say whatever is new, people tend to have this abnormal. Sorry, how will I put it? People tend to look at it like, oh, these people have come again. This compliance every time you have to do this one, do that one. So that's not that nature is there, that culture is there. But looking at it from the global aspect, some companies that are most internationally based or are based both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, they are actually embracing it, knowing fully well that these are compliance issues that you need to be able to navigate your way in the market, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So organizations are actually tilting to it a little, but those of them that have the international presence are actually embracing it because they know that the need is to strive.
I see. So in other words, in your estimation, you don't see it as a burden, but rather an opportunity.
I think yes, it's not. It has NDPC has created a lot of opportunities, both in terms of job opportunities, in terms of making sure that our data are secured, making a lot of milestone accomplishments in Nigerian digital economy. So it's not a burden. But what I say is people that really do not really understand what is there to protect, they still see it as if you're restricting them or restraining them from doing what they have been doing before. But I think as time goes on, with a lot of awareness being created, a lot of talks just like we're having now, companies, organizations, individuals come to understand better why this law is there and why they need to be able to utilize it.
Yeah. So what do you think the biggest challenges will be for regulators and individuals in practice?
Okay, I think the biggest challenge for regulators is tracking down these data processors and controllers. Because for you to be able to do a lot of enforcement, a lot of funds need to go in place.
Yeah.
A lot of funds. You need push a lot of funds to be sure that you can do a lot of awareness. Awareness is funds. Enforcements are also funds, which is something that the NDPC is always talking about. Oh, we need a lot of funds to push this thing to the other side. But on my own, I'll say when people that like data subjects start asking the right questions, it will cushion down this challenge for NDPC, for the regulator. It will cushion down the challenge. And then I think one other challenge for individuals is the fact that they don't really understand what this data privacy and protection is all about. They don't really have a full understanding of what it means to protect their data. So when individuals start appreciating what it takes or what they tend to be vulnerable out there when they give out data without knowing that these things can actually be used against me, they don't appreciate what the negative aspect of not protecting their data. So all these things are things that boils down to the challenges. So when individuals understand this, that challenge will be solved, and it will invariably reroute back to the data, to the regulators. Their challenges on the issue of enforcement and awareness will also cushion down.
Yeah. So now let's look at Nigeria in the global context or in the African context. Let's narrow it down to the African context. So how does Nigeria's new data protection regime compare to, let's say, Kenya's Data Protection Act or South Africa's POPOYA, the Personal Personal Information and Protection Act, or the Ghana's framework? How do you compare them?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that Kenya's Data Protection Commission, POPA in South Africa, and then that of Ghana. I think looking at them, they have actually been there for a while before Nigeria came in. Like I know the Kenya Protection Commission was in 2019. Nigeria came in 2023, and a lot have been done in Kenya, because I will commend them. For an African country, I'll commend them, because during the last Global Privacy Assembly, Kenya won a lot of awards for
Yeah.
pushing privacy and enforcement. I was happy about it. The fact that it's an African country, I was happy. So I think in terms of comparison, I'll say they're doing a lot. Nigeria is also doing a lot too, but I think the edge they have that we are still trying to meet up with is the issue of awareness. The issue of awareness. They have a time span they have stayed, so people have been in that system for a while. We were just coming in, and we are trying to see how we can be able to build our structures. If there's one thing I've advocated for in Nigeria, is building implementations that suit our contents.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to do a comparison between the states, I'll say they have done a lot, and the advantage they have over us is time, because they have been there for a while, especially Kenya. I can say for Kenya because I follow them. I've been following them up for a while. I can't really say much for Ghana and South Africa, but I can say much for Kenya. So for me, I say Nigeria, give us time. Let me put it that way. Give our regulators time.
We will.
With
We
what
will.
we've done, yes. Give us time. I think we'll do better. We'll do more. We're doing something already, so we're going to do better and more.
All right. So, but given that, I don't think I would ask you my next question, because I wanted to ask if what do you think if whether Nigeria is now well placed to lead on shaping Africa's digital trust framework? But of course,
I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Say yes.
Yeah, and then you said we should give you time.
Even if we're doing a whole lot, and we're still going to do more, but I feel that we're pushing, and yes, we're beaming that light. There's a light that we have beamed in the area of data protection and privacy, and it's going to shine more.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Unfortunately, no one has commented yet, and as well, the viewership is dropping. I don't know why. I think I need to up my game in advertising. So now, most of the thing people are here for maybe is to hear what the lawyer side of you. So I want us to go now into practice. Assuming you are an SME or a startup in Nigeria, what are the top 3 things you should be doing today to stay compliant?
Okay, I think first of all, you should, if you're a startup in Nigeria, first of all, know the sector in the NDPC where you fall in. Register as a data protection of major importance. As you process data, if you process or control data, register your company with the NDPC. That's after you're done with company registration and the rest. Then register yourself with the NDPC as a data controller and processor of major or higher importance. And then know the sector where you fall in, so that you know the necessary auditings or necessary filings that you need to do with the NDPC. And if possible, because a DPO can either be an internal staff or a contracted one, get a data protection officer to guide you. Get a data protection officer to guide you. And one thing I'll always say is this: don't just get a data protection officer and leave it at that. No, make sure that the data protection officer carries out training. I make emphasis on it. Training for every member of your staff, especially if you're using technology to provide services.
Yeah.
Because one mistake from one person can get every other person into big problems.
I agree.
So make sure that all your staffs are well trained. Even if you guys are just 2 or 3 or 1, get trained. And then, if possible, get your hands on the law and follow. If you're in Nigeria, I'll say follow the social media handles of the regulator. NDPC are very, very active in their social medias. They put a lot of information there. Go there and follow them so that you can be able to keep yourself updated with what is going on in that space here in Nigeria.
Yeah. So how can legal tech tools help make compliance more manageable for organizations?
Okay, I think one thing I've advocated for is privacy by design and default.
Yeah.
Very important. So if you want to use the legal tools, make sure that whether you're building an app, you're building anything you're building, trying to use tech to provide services, make sure that by design,
It's
that's
hard. It's
from the very foundation of what you're building, you are incorporating privacy into it.
yeah,
And by default, that's no matter the layers they are coming in, let there be privacy embedded in that work.
yeah,
Whatever legality you're using, where you're building to provide, because now we're in an era where people use tech to provide a lot of solutions, to make life easy, to connect people. A lot of things are going on in the tech space, and it's really, really providing a lot of making life more easy and more faster for us. But at the same time, while we are trying to make life easy and faster, you should understand the fact that whatever it is you're building as a startup owner, as a founder, you're trying to a software engineer. I talk to tech people a lot, and I tell them that, see, no matter what it is you're doing, the extent of trust people have for your tool or for your app or for whatever it is you're building, digital trust is essential. Just, I tell people that it is a time, it's coming, it's very close, when people will not just want to use app because they like the services they provide. People will now want to use app based on the digital trust they have, or the trust they have for that app concerning their data.
yeah.
So if I go to an app, the first thing the time will come when people go use an app, the first thing they are going after is, oh, what are they using my data for? Are they monitoring my behavior? Are they monitoring my spending? People now will not be.
But as African, do you think we've reached to that point? I mean,
Not yet.
yeah,
Not yet, because I wrote something on my LinkedIn page that was like last month, and I said, this thing that we like, freebies, you just go online and people will tell you, oh, use this application. You can use it for a particular period of time for free before you start paying for it. And I tell that there's nothing that is free in this world.
no.
If you're not paying with money, you're paying with your data.
You're paying with your data for ad revenue.
So I think in Africa we're still coming up. We're not doing bad. We're not doing that bad, but we're coming up.
So how does the NDPC express its regulatory powers on foreign tech companies, especially the giants, the big giant like Meta and Google and OpenAI
So
and these ones?
Okay, so thank you for that question. Very important. So we have this issue of cross-border data. So for the big tech giants, I think NDPC, first of all, they just have to register with the NDPC. And then the NDPC investigates their activities
within Nigeria.
Yes, within Nigeria, what they use the data. Like, for example, now, the NDPC doesn't just work alone. The NDPC works with other agencies like the Federal Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC of Nigeria. The NDPC works with them. They work with the NIMS, that's National Identity Management System here in Nigeria. They also work with NIDA too. So as many regulators that help to curb this issue of data protection and privacy, the NDPC works with them hand in hand. Even law enforcement agencies, the NDPC works with them too. So what it entails is that when this big tech giant comes into Nigeria, they register with the NDPC. The NDPC monitors their activities, monitors how they take data and what they did. And whenever they see any glitch or anything that is not in cognizance with what our law provides, they give them a notice. Like they tell them that, no, please, you have to put this technical issue or technical hinge in order. We need you to rectify this so that it is in cognizance with what our law provides if you want to operate in our country. So I think the major heavy weather was between the Meta and FCCPC, because they found out that there were some data breaches that Meta was doing here in Nigeria, and they had to call them to order after a lot of investigations. Because what the NDP does, they don't just complain and then they just send the notice. No, when you lay a complaint, they carry out internal investigations in that particular company organization, then before they now send out a notice.
Yeah, because I was worried, and I was thinking perhaps the NDPC doesn't have that sort of regulatory powers on
No, they
these?
do. They have the right. They have a right in the NDPA. They have a right to investigate. They have a right
Good.
to enforce, and they have a right to lay fines where necessary.
Good. So now, and for young lawyers like us and innovators, where do you see the most exciting opportunities in this new ecosystem?
Okay, so there's one thing I've always said, for young lawyers, it's an opportunity for you to become a DPO. You can actually gain license as a data protection officer, because it is something that is going to, in the coming months or years, is going to be it's going to be an area where the demand is going to be very high. Yes. So you can actually, take a foot there. They read, like, for example, I tell people that a lot of things I know now was due to the fact that I had a foundation in law, so I was able to appreciate the NDPA, the GAID, do some certification courses, get into associations. Like, for example, in Nigeria here, we have DPLAN, Data Privacy Law Association of Nigeria. We have...
How can I be a member?
You can actually apply. I can send you the link.
I want to be a member.
For Nigeria.
I'm an ECOWAS citizen, so by way of by way of the protocol, we have the same passport.
No problem. So, well, we still have the African Privacy Law Association, that's APLA. So these are organizations that we can belong to as lawyers, young lawyers, and take advantage of them to get more job opportunities. And as individuals, we can actually grow our space in, for example, if you have a background in securities, like I said earlier, or you have a background in compliance, you can actually develop your strengths in data privacy and data protection and see it as an opportunity. And then one thing I've always advocated for is the issue of becoming a privacy champion.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Create awareness about it. This is an opportunity that you can actually, apply, and then it can be useful to you in the long run.
Chinonso, we're running out of time. So now quickly in few words, and if possible in 1 minute, if we fast forward 5 years, what would success look like for Nigeria's data protection journey under the NDPA?
I'll say there'll be a lot of compliance in data privacy and a lot of awareness in it. And the system, the digital ecosystem in Nigeria would have gotten a lot of structures, would have built a lot of structures and a lot of policies and implementation around data privacy and data protection. With the way the NDPC is going now, there will be a lot of structures for data protection and data privacy here in Nigeria.
Perfect. Thank you very much, viewers. We had been in the company of Chinonso Emeka, who is a senior associate at Privalex. Am I calling it right? Privalex. Okay, a senior associate at Privalex in Lagos, Nigeria, right? Or in Abuja? You guys are in Lagos. Okay.
Yes, Lagos.
But you're currently in Lagos.
No, currently in Abuja.
Okay, in Abuja, Nigeria, the capital city of Nigeria. We've been discussing the Nigerians' data protection journey from the NDPR in 2019 to where we are now after the enactment of the National Data Protection Act of 2023, given some political turmoil and history and where we are now. So thank you very much, Chinonso, for coming to Wivo Legal Tech to share your insight and to help us, understand why we are here and what exactly is new and what has improved and what the journey has been like for you guys in Nigeria. And of course, we have so much to learn from you guys here. For us in Sierra Leone in particular, shamefully, we've still not have our own our own data protection law, but we are on the pipeline. It's coming. It's almost here, of course, and we're excited to see it. And hopefully, we'll have the Minister of Information come to Wivo Legal Tech to tell us about it in the next subsequent episodes. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody that's tuned in today. I've been your host, Mohamed Uriba, on behalf of Chinonso. This is where we sign out and say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you.